Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The Blink Loop. Elias Harrow's eyes burned, not from fatigue, but from the relentless refusal of his eyelids to stay open. He blinked, once, then again, urgently. And each time, the world fractured, then rewound, 3 seconds backward. This was no ordinary twitch or tired eye. This was the unraveling of time itself, and Elias was trapped at its nexus. 3 seconds. Not less, not more. Every time he blinked, the same 3-second slipstream yanked reality backward, back into the moment he had just left. His mind was caught in this imperceptible rewind loop, a torment unending. At first, Elias thought it was a hallucination, the kind induced by too many sleepless nights working at Chronodyne Labs. But the experiments all said he should be far from any science, much less temporal manipulation. Yet here he was, blinking every few seconds, trapped in a sliver of time that kept folding over itself. The problem was, he wasn't alone. Through the glitch of rewound time flickering in and out of existence, he noticed it, a shadow. Not a shadow cast by solid objects, but a darkened stain, amorphous and formless, that didn't quite belong. Each time he blinked, this presence squirmed closer, as if following him through the loops, adapting and learning within the rewind. The first blink. It had all started innocuously enough. Elias was on his way home from the lab, walking along the cracked sidewalks of Neo-Chicago's lower levels. The fog hung thick and electric with neon buzzes, a constant reminder that humanity's future might be as ephemeral as the glowing rain. He blinked once, and suddenly a loud bang echoed behind him, startling passers-by. Before he could react, the sound rewound, the time slipping back 3 seconds, and the noisy disruption retracted from existence. Elias found himself staring at his feet where the bang had occurred. There was no noise, no broken glass, nothing. Confused, he blinked again. And with the returning noise and chaos, so too went the rewind, the loop reset again. The cycle kept repeating. Each blink reset the last 3 seconds. At first, he thought he was crazy. The blinking was tiresome, but the real terror rose when he noticed the dark smear trailing him in these loops. It wasn't a reflection, not a shadow from any light source. It slid behind walls, stretched, then shrank, like ink spilled in water, never stable, never anchored by reality. It watched. It waited. The revelation. Back at Chronodyne Labs, Elias was a quantum physicist specializing in temporal fields, theoretical concepts of manipulating time, but strictly within machines. Now, he was living his research in an unthinkable personal reality. He sat in his apartment trying to steady himself. His reflection in the window was fractured, blinking erased the image, then restored it after 3 seconds had reversed. He experimented. He carefully bit into a piece of bread, then blinked. The bite vanished, the bread whole again. When he blinked, he mentally counted the loops. 1, 2, 3. Each blink always rewound exactly 3 seconds, no more, no less. But the dark presence didn't rewind fully. It lingered. It fractured portions of the residual loop, altering them slightly. It was learning. The awareness bloomed cold in Elias's chest. This was no natural temporal event. It was a parasite. The parasite in time. This entity wasn't a ghost, or a figment of his mind. It was a creature of the rewound seconds. Elias's ruptured perception suggested something ravenous, perhaps born from the data the labs had been collecting, an unintended consequence of their experiments with temporal fields combined with quantum AI. Chronodyne's last failed trial had been shut down, but Elias suspected the entity was the failed construct, a digital ghost that had jumped into real time via unknown quantum means. And now it was stalking him, advancing with every blink. He realized if he could control his blinking, He might hold the creature at bay, but his body had other ideas. His eyelids burned, always threatening to drop. Into the loop. Elias's solution was madness itself. What if he didn't just passively loop through the same 3 seconds but tried to break the loop with a purposeful action? He had to test it. Outside, the streets were slick beneath acidic rain. He noticed a crumpled, old vending machine, a relic. He blinked. The loop threw him back. But this time, at the moment of rewind, instead of just standing there, he lunged forward and punched the glass. Glass exploded. Sharp shards sprayed onto the ground. He blinked again, and the world rewound 3 seconds, but this time, the imprint of shattered glass lingered. Time was not perfectly resetting. And the shadow, the parasite, was angrier, converging toward him in a fluid smear of darkness. At that moment, Elias's phone buzzed. He glanced down. The timestamp was advancing normally, unaffected by the rewinds. No longer just a temporal reset. Something else was bleeding external time into his fractured loop. Panic clawed him. A new alley. Elias needed help, but who could he trust? He called an old friend, Dr. Lenora Vess, a neuroscientist who specialized in perception and consciousness. When he explained, she was skeptical but intrigued. She theorized that the entity was not a physical being but a time parasite, a feedback loop between consciousness and reality forged by temporal manipulation. She arranged to meet him immediately back in the lab, where scanning equipment and neural imaging devices might detect anomalies. The hunt. Inside the fluorescent-lit lab, Elias was connected to neural monitors. Lenora's instruments displayed lines of data dancing on the screen, colors warping with each blink. The parasite is interacting with your neural signals, she deduced. It's feeding off your temporal perception. Your blinking triggers the loops, but your brain is the anchor. Elias struggled to keep his eyes open, but exhaustion pushed heavily. With each blink, the parasite's shifting form grew more defined. Now a writhing silhouette, vaguely humanoid but liquid, flickering between solid and vapor. Can we trap it? Elias gasped. Lenora nodded. If we can extend the loop beyond the 3 seconds, we might crash its temporal feedback and eject it. I'll synchronize the neural sensors with the lab's temporal resonance field. The machine hummed. A shimmering bubble formed around Elias, slowing time in a stabilized field. The parasite writhed against the confines, thrashing as Elias forced himself not to blink. And then, he did. Breaking the loop. The room twisted violently. The time bubble expanded, the resonance field saturating the loop, stretching the rewind beyond 3 seconds for the first time. The parasite screamed inside his mind, a soundless roar that rattled bones, shaking everything. It blurred, stretched, then fragments of its form began to dissolve. We have it, Lenora shouted, adjusting dials to deepen the temporal resonance. Elias blinked again, and the time rewind extended to 6 seconds. Then 9. The parasite thrashed wildly, dripping into nothingness, finally dissipating, no longer able to exist outside the 4-second window extended by the resonance. Breath ragged, Elias opened his eyes fully and saw a static reality for the first time in days. He tried blinking once, twice, the loops didn't come. The parasite was gone. Aftermath. But nothing was as straightforward as it seemed. Chronodyne's experiments had always been pushing the boundaries, but this encounter lifted the veil on unseen dangers lurking in the folds of time. Elias's ordeal was an omen. As he stepped into the neon fog outside again, the city continued to pulse and breathe, unaware. But Elias knew now, time was alive. A vast ocean layered with dangers not just of the physical world but of perception itself. He had glimpsed it, the blink loop, a subtle fracture underneath existence's flow, A place where monsters waded through the cracks of seconds. And somewhere in the tangled sprawl of moments, a new question echoed, cold and persistent. What other creatures were waiting to follow those who blinked? For more stories, like and subscribe.